What's going on, gremlins? I've wanted to talk about this topic for a while, but it requires me to get really vulnerable, and some days I just don't have the energy to relive this stuff. But I think I can pull quite a few lessons from these stories, so here is an incomplete list of people that I have heavily idolized in the past and the unhealthy mindsets that my idolization put me in. I'm gonna go ahead and say some of the people I'm going to talk about are public figures and some of them are or were personal friends. I will take full responsibility for every way that I was wrong or inappropriate, but by the nature of these videos, I will occasionally have to address things about the other party as well. Some of these people contributed to the toxicity of my relationship with them, some of them did not, but I will try to keep the focus on how I could have done better. So, without further ado, the first person I idolized was, I'm sure you can guess, VivziePop. Now, part of me doesn't like the idea of making another public video where I talk about her, because last time I did that, I caused her a lot of hurt, and it took me a long time to realize that. My defenses for making this video are as follows. 1. I'm condemning myself this time, not her. 2. It's important to me that I pass the lessons I learned from my own blunders to my audience, and to do that I have to explain what was going through my head when it happened. I would just say an artist I loved, and give her a fake name, but, nobody would look at my old art and believe I was copying some random artist. I mean, God. Plus, I will be touching on the drama we got into, so yeah. I'm not trying to cause her any trouble or tarnish her name any further than I did back then. I just need to go ahead and be honest about what I was thinking in order to explain why I now think it was wrong. So, I think I actually discovered VivziePop when she was 14 and just starting on DeviantArt. And I think she was even part of a loose friend group I barged my way into when I was 11, and nobody in that group liked me because I was an annoying copycat. In another video, I'll tell a funny story about a fight I had with the other people in that group and explain what I learned from that. But in all honesty, I think anybody could have been my VivziePop. She just happened to be the one artist whose work I became absolutely infatuated with for far longer than anyone else's. I don't know why. I would always have several favorite artists at any given time, but she was always at the top, and my intense love for her art lasted longer than it did for anyone else's art. And I think she is still the only artist off the top of my head that I obsessed over for that long. So, because of this, I would constantly compare myself to her, I would get jealous of perceived better skills than mine that she had, I would wish my art style was as cool as hers, and I really wanted her to notice me. I dreamed of one day going to the same college as her and becoming epic artist friends and doing collabs. I think I even wrote, like, a fanfic about me and the people in our friend group meeting in real life and getting sucked into a cartoon together, and just... ugh, please have mercy on me. I was never taught boundaries by anyone as a child. My parents encouraged me to chase after people, and they never warned me to back the fuck off when I did things that I now realize were pretty fucking creepy. Like, geez, why didn't anyone stop me? I'm gonna put up some of my old art, and you can watch as I slowly just start completely copying VivziePop's art style at the time. And, like, I'll fully own up to that, but I also want to assure anyone that there is literally nothing wrong with drawing in a style you didn't create. Style theft is not a real thing, and whatever you might classify as style theft hurts no one at all. But that doesn't stop annoying teenagers on DeviantArt from accusing people of copying artists' unique, one-of-a-kind style, ooh. So, I actually got a few comments from people telling me that my style was too similar to hers, even after I actually messaged her to ask if she had any tips for creating a style that wasn't derivative of just one source, and then started attempting to force a style change in my art. But okay, so, having an artist that you love and take heavy inspiration from is all good and dandy, right? Save for maybe some kinda excessive longing for friendship with my favorite artist and getting offended when people insulted her art, I didn't feel like I was suffering because of my idolization. However, I believe that one of the reasons I fell so hard into the bad webcomics wiki criticism crowd was because I didn't realize at the time how much I was devaluing myself by worshipping Vivzie's art so much. And don't get me wrong, it's amazing that she was able to create several fully animated shorts and later build a team to make complete pilot episodes. Like, I'm not saying that she isn't talented and deserving of praise and recognition for her work. But while now I can recognize her on her own merits, I used to praise her for being way better or so much more creative than me, and that caused her art to be kind of a double-edged sword for me. It felt good to look at it because I loved it and I thought it was so good, but it also hurt because I felt like I would never be that good and I would never compare to her. And I think because of this, the first time someone I respected ever said something negative about Vivzie's art, I experienced a weird sense of relief. I was talking with my best friend, who I also idolized at the time, and who I will be talking about in my next video in this series, and I was doing my usual gushing about Vivzie's art, and she said, she's not that great. And suddenly, everything just froze. I didn't feel offended like I normally would if someone insulted my favorite artist. I felt intrigued, and I asked her why she would feel that way. And she spent some time explaining her issues with Vivzie's Zoophobia comic, which was something I had been just so impressed by. And before I continue, I want to remind everyone that this was bad on my part. It's not good to feel offended when someone criticizes something you love, but it's also not good to feel relieved when someone you look up to is brought down a peg, so to speak. A healthy person shouldn't need to bring others down in order to bring themselves up, and it took me quite a while, even after the drama between me and VivziePop, to realize that my method of engaging with media that I admired too much was really unhealthy. There was one other factor that contributed to my anger towards VivziePop during the drama between us, and that was a very tiny collection of maybe 2 or 3 tiny little actions from her over my years of idolizing her, that I viewed as a little rude or dismissive. And those actions aren't important. I'm not here to drag up old shit that I'm not pissy about anymore, and it would be obscenely petty to have ever given her shit about those things. But at the time, those little things essentially introduced the tiniest of cracks in my admiration for her. So when my best friend finally told me she wasn't as enamored with Vivzie as I was, that was another crack. And when that same friend tried to reach out and ask to help her with her story, and Vivzie responded by ignoring the email and vague tweeting about her, the glass broke, because at that point, to me, it was personal. But, God, this is cringy. I'm calling myself out.
No! I'm calling you out! That's my job!
You're allowed to agree with me. Just sit there and nod in agreement until you have an objection.
Casper, get off my shelf! Stop rubbing your balls on everything!
First of all, this is not how you're supposed to think of people. The idea of a public figure you like being this perfect, clear glass with just tiny cracks that taint your overall image of them is very toxic. It's seeing someone as either perfection or broken, instead of admiring someone for the things you love about them, like art for example, and also acknowledging that they're human and aren't going to perfectly jive with you in every conceivable way. People are flawed, and also, not every little thing you're not crazy about in another person is a flaw. Sometimes it's just a preference you have that the other person shouldn't be made to change for you. Secondly, I was so entitled back then, Jesus Christ! Just imagining myself in Vivzie's shoes when she received an email from a total stranger asking if they could have an important role in editing her comic. A total stranger! Fuck no, she doesn't have to respond. And she can vent her frustrations about how that email came off to her on her Twitter all she goddamn wants because it's her Twitter. Like, fuck! I do the exact same thing. I subtweet about my dumbass coworkers now. Just remembering how butthurt I got that an artist I once looked up to didn't accept help from my amazing friend, like, oh, jeez. It was bad.
Jeez. Dude.
I know. I didn't expect to get mad at myself while writing this script, but fuck me. Okay, so a quick recap of what we've learned so far. I admired an artist to an unhealthy and obsessive degree. I devalued myself instead of admiring her in her own right. I saw her as perfect, so any perceived flaws tainted my full idea of her. I did a near 180 once I saw her supposedly insult my friend, personally, when really it was a normal response to a stranger from her point of view. Okay, so the 180 is weird, and I experienced this with Steven Universe as well, right after the VivziePop drama. Ooh, I wonder if I actually hadn't gotten over it yet and just shifted my vitriol. Oof. I have a theory for why I might have done such an extreme 180 once I started becoming disillusioned with my idealized version of VivziePop. Parasocial relationships are very powerful, and when you hold someone up on such a high pedestal, it becomes so much easier to feel personally betrayed anytime they make a mistake or do something you don't like. When something feels personal, it suddenly holds a lot more weight on you and feels more serious. And with VivziePop, it was like flipping a coin. All of a sudden, I was on top, but I was hurting her instead of hurting myself. And that's not any better. Also, not that I want anyone dragging Vivzie over here or anything, But if Vivzie ever does see this, I just want to assure her that I'm not putting any blame for this on her. She didn't cause this. She didn't do anything weird that made me idolize her so hard. She didn't encourage me to try and impress her or anything like that. This was all something I did to myself, and Vivzie just happened to be the person I clung to. And if I haven't said it already, I'm very sorry for all of the shit I did. I think in my video explaining why I privated the drama video, I just said that I didn't like the messages it sent, but I also don't like who I was and how I acted, and I don't like that I hurt you. So, I'm sorry. In the next video, I'll cover a more personal relationship to balance out the weird entitlement of parasocial obsession. Thanks for watching. I hope I didn't cross any lines talking about another person like this, and I hope you all learned something from my bullshit. If you liked the video, leave a like or a dislike if your sleep paralysis demon sounds like me. I don't discriminate. I want to thank my patron, Kano Kintoni. Thank you again for all your support. My links are in the description. I also have a Discord server. Blah 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 blah. I love Dr. Pepper. See you next time. Bye!